Supreme Court temporarily halts banning of old Naira notes from circulation as from February 10th. Federal government warns against disruption in petrol supply and oil climbs third day on subdued dollar. U.S. crude stocks drop. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us. It's time to talk business. I will start by telling you that the Supreme Court has temporarily halted the move by the federal government to ban the use of the old Naira notes from February 10, 2023. A seven-member panel led by Justice John Okoro halted the move of the federal government in a ruling in an ex parte application brought by three northern states of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara. The three states had specifically applied for an order of interim injunction restraining the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria or the commercial banks from suspending or determining or ending on February 10, 2023, the time frame with which the now older version of the 200, 500, and 1,000 denomination of the Naira may no longer be legal tender. The interim application is pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction, moving the application a short while. Counsel to the applicants, Othman Mustafa San, had urged the Apex Court to grant the application in the interest of justice and the well-being of Nigeria. Delivering a ruling on the motion, Justice Okoro granted the interim order restraining the federal government through the CBN from the continued implementation of the new monetary policy. The Apex Court has adjourned to February 15, 2023 for hearing of the main suit. And earlier, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to consider reviewing the swap deadline if concerns persist. The fund, in a statement Wednesday in Abuja, said the advice became necessary in light of hardships caused by disruptions to trade and payments due to the shortage of new bank notes available to the public, in spite of measures introduced by the CBN to mitigate the challenges in the banknote swap process. The IMF, therefore, is encouraging the CBN to consider extending the deadline should problems persist in the next few days, leading up to the February 10, 2023 deadline. And joining me to talk more on the latest on the Naira redesign and more is a financial analyst, Abdul Mumin Ali. Abdul Mumin, you are welcome to Business Express.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Good to have you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, with the matters at hand, while people were rushing to get to change their last notes, they would tell you even the old Naira is not available following the deadline, that is just about 2 days to the deadline. Then we heard this morning the Supreme Court restraining the continuation of this. Did you see this coming? And what does this portend? What's your take in all of this?
First of all, the thinking behind the redesign of Nigeria is built on very solid premise.
Good.
The challenge that we have with the policy is the implementation. There are many diverse challenges we have in Nigeria. One of them is, of course, the geographical spread of the country. How many people in the rural areas, has the CBN reached? The CBN on its own gave January 9th as the date to begin implementing certain parts of the program. ATMs will start dispensing only 200 Naira notes and what have you. But ATMs dispensed the old notes up till the third week of January. Okay, and then so what were we left with? The real implementation practically started on the last week of January, and this is the first week of February. We're talking of a 200 million people
Population.
country. So we're bound to face challenges. And what has happened over this time is that CBN has withdrawn 1.9 trillion, right?
For circulation.
Yeah, from circulation, right? If you add that to the figures that were in the bank votes, that's 500 billion. That's about 2.4 trillion, right? And then has replaced it with 300 billion. So you have taken out 2.4 and replaced it with 300 billion. Clearly, you're going to have issues, and those are the issues we're experiencing today. Long queues at ATMs, people, getting agitated. They want to access their monies, they can't access their monies. The banks are going through their challenges through the systems they have, their applications and what have you are not designed to support the kind of traffic that has suddenly hit them. The infrastructure is not there, so there are failed transactions back and forth. And today we've learned the hard way that cash at hand and cash at bank are two different things entirely. Everybody wants to hold on to his cash.
Okay, with this present reality and haven't stated the facts, which remains possibly the implementation process was a bit slow than it is. Then we had assurances and reassurances from the presidency down to the CBN, down to the stakeholders that within these few days before the deadline, all of these things will be straightened up. Then we are hit with the issues of bank officials hoarding this money. You go to the banks, you don't get this money. You go to the point of sale person out there, he has this cash, but he's selling at high exorbitant price. Where does that leave us?
I used to be a banker, so naturally I understand the constraints my ex-colleagues are going through in the banking system. But I don't think the CBN has been fair to them. What we're now doing is that we're pointing fingers at the banks and calling the banks all kind of names. They're holding monies and what have you. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that, of course, if you have 1,000 bankers out there, you might have the odd 2 or 3, 4, 5 people that have got, challenges with their character. But in the main, right, bankers will simply be bankers and they will do their job. The truth of the matter is that when you withdraw 2.4 trillion and you replace it with 300 billion, and that 300 billion doesn't even come out in good time.
But the idea is not to roll out almost an equivalent amount. The idea is to encourage Nigerians to go the e-transaction way. Yes, you've mentioned the banks were not designed to kind of accommodate the traffic that are suddenly hit with. That's why we're having most of this failed transfers. In looking at the solution, aside widening infrastructure, what do you think we should do? We have different alternative platforms. We had e-Naira that was coming in. Maybe Nigerians didn't get to accept it as much as should. We're talking about functionality. We have the point of sales that is also there. Then you have some other fintechs that are offering these financial services to ease up transactions. I was on the streets about 2 days ago, and I met someone selling Hawking pure water. He said he receives transfers. That means he has a bank account. So, is it the matter of us not accepting change the way it should, or we had to wait last minute for us to respond to this? Yes, you mentioned old notes were given as early or as late as close to the first deadline. What's the solution? What's the way out in all of this?
He who seeks equity must be seen to do equity. And if you want to come to equity, you should come with clean hands.
Clean hands, sure.
CBN hands haven't been very clean the way they've implemented. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
Now back to the issue of the banks. I was in the bank the other day, just last Friday, and ICPC were there arresting some guy over the fact that
he had cash and he didn't load it
now,
on
the figures I was hearing them discuss was 8 million, and I'm like, give me a break. 8 billion is pocket money. Now the point I'm making is it's a lot of money, but it's pocket money to a bank. Now, if these are the issues we are beginning to discuss in a bank, then we're not yet ready. I understand with you. I'm a cashless. I believe in cashless. I believe that if we want to address many of the issues, criminalities that we have, banditry and what have you, a cashless economy basically knocks off the crime, because there is no cash cash is almost criminal to hold as it is in some other crimes, So yes, I'm for cashless, but the question is, what is the roadmap to cashless? Do you go big bang, or do you go systemically? I think we have adopted the big bang approach, and instead of going systemically, and these are the throwbacks of going big bang. Ultimately, we'll get there. But I think we will need to ease our journey there. You don't want to, in the process of doing what is right, now create a social strife We saw what happened in Abuja yesterday.
Ibadan,
Ibadan and all that. You don't. I saw. I watched a video a couple of days ago. I saw a bank staff escaping from the bank with a ladder. I mean, come on. You don't want that. I have colleagues that work in this industry. I mean, I pity for them because I mean, you have to go to work.
Your life's at risk.
And your life is at risk.
These days, you don't wear corporate. You dress low, and you don't go with your car. Safety measures.
Yes, but
that's the code around the banks now.
I know, and you still have to go
serious.
to work. Well, some banks have been proactive. They've actually.
But some have actually shut their doors from customers. If you don't have cash, we don't open.
Yes.
Is that not affecting our financial inclusion drive? Though, is it for the reason? Is it for this particular?
It's for
purpose,
this reason.
This condition that we are in.
It's
now?
for this reason. You won't understand with me. I mean, you're Mr. Abu Haliru somewhere, and I have money in the bank. I have $1 million in the bank. I get to the bank. I'm told I cannot withdraw more than 20,000 naira at any point in time. No problem. Then I even get there and I don't get the 20,000. Then I start getting, agitated.
They have needs to meet.
And then there are many people that have exactly the same, they have the same concerns as me. They have the same anger, I mean, there's suddenly what starts from an irate customer because you have a mob on your hands, and in no time, people's life could be in danger. So the responsible bank CEO will say, hey, wait a minute, this is a flashpoint. This is a market area. I mean, these are the dynamics in this place. Let's shut down. Let's keep ABC branch open because their customers are a bit on the high profile side. They use apps, they are more likely to understand what you're going through. But this other end of the market won't understand and will demand, for the service.
We have to stay safe.
Exactly.
When all of this, what's the solution? Would this restraining order now buy time for Nigerians as well as the regulatory body to actually put their acts right to just get to smoothen the process?
What I think is the challenge mainly is not so much so the policy, like I said, is the timing. And a better way to approach this is to have all the players, come together and look at what the issues are. When I'm talking about all the players, I'm talking about people like the regulator, the central bank. You are the regulator, that's correct, but you don't just sit down there and then just push these things down. The bankers are the ones that the tire meets the road, where the bankers themselves, operate. Now, if you don't take these decisions in conjunction with bank CEOs, they are the guys that interface with the customers. The CBN doesn't, So they are the ones that will tell you what the challenges are, and then you find a way to work around these challenges in such a way that you don't create public strife.
How easy is it, and how difficult is it to actually get this transaction smooth? On a closing note,
infrastructure, and we are looking at telco infrastructure. Sometimes something as simple as making a telephone call, you're having drop calls. Now, personally, I had 3 transactions last Saturday. I was told they were failed transactions, and I got debited. So I'm waiting for these things to be reversed or follow up.
Until this moment?
Until this moment, yes. And this is a result of infrastructure. And but I understand what's going on. I understand the fact that if 10 people were using a platform before and the number jumps to 1,000 overnight, and the platform was built for maybe 100.
But there's also an allegation that before now you had banks that actually spend well on their IT people to get their infrastructure working. Then there is a drop in pay and people are moving out for better greener pastures, and the system is just there hanging. This also brings issues of security. You hear people having debit a lot. I'm not giving anybody my PIN, my account, my money is just disappearing from my account, and all those issues, security issues. How can we also use this time to also tempt such a challenge?
A lot of times when the bank talks about the infrastructure, because what services the customers. But remember that the bank sometimes, or most times, has to sit on telco infrastructure. So when I transfer money to you, yes, the money has moved from person A to person B, but the channel by which it moved is actually a telco channel, right? Now, and the question is how developed are those infrastructure themselves? It's not what the bank has as internal IT per se, but what the linkages are, and yes, we'll get there, but I think the journey should be more systemic.
Well, thank you so very much, Abdul Mumin Ali, for sharing your thoughts with
My
us
pleasure.
at this particular
Any day.
point in time. This is a discussion that is continuous. Let's get to see how things will smoothen up for you and I to have freer transactions.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on, with few days left into the second window of the cash swap policy, the cash strapped resulting from the exercise is making traders to accept less cash from their customers with the redesigned notes and charge exorbitant price on the same commodity for transactions made through electronic transfer. Adam Yusuf captures the situation for news from Damaturu.
Damaturu-based capital is different from other days, as there are piles and piles of goods and services waiting for buyers to purchase. But unfortunately, there are very few buyers at the market. Limited flow of redesigned Naira notes has become a thorn in the flesh to many Nigerians, to a large extent slowing down business activities in many parts of the country, including major markets in Yobe State. The situation at the Damaturu weekly market is such that businesses now apply two price regimes to trade in goods and services. The lower being purchases made cash down, while customers pay twice or more of what they paid for same commodity via electronic transfer. For instance, a bag of millet which is sold at the cost of 21,000 naira has reduced to 12,000 naira. Sorghum has also fallen from 20,000 naira to about 13,000 naira. Similarly, a ram that goes for 75,000 naira is sold at 45,000 naira or even less. The story is similar at Potuskum Market, where non-availability of the redesigned notes gave birth to two forms of transactions, where direct cash transactions attracts nearly 50% discount. About 500 bags or more used to enter the market daily, but now people are somehow reluctant because even if they sell these products, they cannot access the cash. At the livestock section, it was gathered that a ram sold at 75,000 naira through e-transaction is sold at 35,000 naira with the new notes, while a sheep sold at 25,000 naira as against 40,000 naira using other payment platforms. The same story goes to other livestock. Prices of goods and services have drastically fallen. It is a good thing for both buyers and sellers. But where is the cash to continue business activities? Government should make that available. In Damaturu, Adam Yusuf.
At this point, let's take a trip to the commodity market. And the federal government is set to inaugurate the bottom-up cash planning initiative aimed at addressing cash management challenges as part of public financial management reforms. This is coming after the rollout of the Integrated Financial Management Information System, GIFMIS, alongside the Treasury's single account in April 2012. The objective of cash management is to ensure government is able to fund its expenditures in a timely manner and meet its obligations as they fall due. Other objectives include minimizing the cost of holding cash balances, reducing operational credit and market risks, in addition to flexibility to the ways in which the timing of government cash inflows and outflows can be matched. This is in addition to supporting other financial policies like certainty to budget execution and engendering fiscal discipline. The policy guideline was approved for implementation by President Muhammadu Buhari in August 2022. And Nigerian equities made rebound midweek to recover from losses recorded in Tuesday's session. The all-share index locked 0.23% to settle at 54,427.05 basis points. 151 million shares exchanged hands in 2,974 deals, valued at 1.81 billion naira. Equity capitalization closed out the session at 29.644 trillion naira. Universal Insurance, Transcorp and GTCO were the most sought after stocks. Let's now join Nneka Oko for global stock market update. Nneka, is over to you.
Asian markets traded mixed on Wednesday as Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell overnight acknowledged that inflation is declining, a sign the central bank may soon pause its rate hikes. The Nikkei 225 in Japan fell 0.29% to 27,606.46. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index lost 0.07%, while the Shanghai Composite dropped 0.49%. U.S. stock futures slipped in early trade following a rally the previous session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average futures fell by 76 points. S&P 500 slipped 0.31% and Nasdaq 100 shed 0.3%. In Europe, markets were higher, with stocks in London leading the region. The FTSE 100 rose 0.76%, while Germany's DAX was up 0.79%, and CAC 40 of France gained 0.58%. African markets traded in mixed territories after an unsteady trading session the previous day. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 gained 0.52%. Namibia's overall index also rose 0.56%, while Tunisia's tone index fell and Ghana's GSE composite was flat.
Well, that wraps Business Express for today. Join us again Thursday by 9:30 a.m. for another episode.